Okay, let's pull back the curtain on the incredible, almost invisible system that brings every stream, every social media post, and every single piece of digital content right to your screen. It's this massive structure that we live in every single day, but almost never actually see.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You turn on your TV, you unlock your phone, and you are just hit with this tidal wave of choices. It's kind of cool, but it can also feel like absolute chaos, right? Well, that feeling, that's actually the key to understanding this entire digital world.
And that chaos, it actually has a name: media fragmentation. Decades ago, you had maybe a few TV networks. Now, there are countless streaming services, endless social platforms, all fighting for a slice of your attention. So the central problem for this entire industry is, how do they cut through all that noise to find you? And look, if you think it's fragmented on the surface, just wait till you see what's happening behind the scenes. To get just one digital ad to show up on your screen, it can involve over 200 different companies passing it along. 200! This level of complexity is just crying out for some kind of blueprint, an organizing principle to make sense of it all. So for this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to use a mental model. Let's imagine the entire media ecosystem as this giant 4-story skyscraper. If we can understand what each floor does, we can start to see how the whole building actually works. So here are the 4 layers of our skyscraper. Up top, you've got the penthouse, that's content and rights. Then there's the upper floors, that's device and consumption, where we actually interact with everything. Below that is the plumbing and elevators, which is platform and delivery, and holding it all up is the foundation, the infrastructure. For our tour today, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. All right, let's head down to the basement and check out the building's core systems. This is all about the physical hardware, the servers, the fiber optic cables, and the delivery networks that have to move unbelievable amounts of data from some server farm somewhere in the world directly to your device. For a long time, the basic plumbing for all this was something called a content delivery network, or CDN. And you know what? They were fine. They were good enough for basic stuff. But our demand for instant, high-quality, lag-free experiences, think live sports or VR or cloud gaming, it required a massive upgrade. So say hello to the XDN, the Experience Delivery Network, which is built for speed. And the secret sauce that powers these new XDNs is something called edge computing. The idea is actually simple, but it's totally brilliant. Instead of your phone having to pull data from a huge server that's halfway across the country, edge computing puts these tiny microclouds physically much, much closer to you. This is why your live game stream doesn't buffer. It's all about cutting down the physical distance that data has to travel. And even down here, in the deep technical guts of the skyscraper, that theme of fragmentation is still with us. There's no one universal language for streaming. You've got Apple's version, HLS, which is the most common. And then you have the open standard, MPG-. But because they don't really play nice together, especially on Apple's devices, media companies have to build and pay for 2 separate sets of digital pipes. It just adds more cost and more complexity right into the foundation. Okay, let's take the elevator and move up the skyscraper. We're now on the floors where we, the users, actually live. This is where we interact with all that content. It's the world of our devices, our screens, and most importantly, our attention. And let's be honest, we don't just use one screen anymore, do we? We are living in a multi-screen reality. While we're watching TV, 41% of us are on our phones, jumping on social media to talk about the show. And another 35% of us are actively shopping for products that we see on that main screen. The TV is no longer just this passive box. It's a launch pad for everything else we do. So that raises a big question, right? If you're doing all this stuff on your second screen, how do advertisers connect what you're doing on your phone with what you're seeing on your TV? Especially when one might be a live football game and the other is a streaming app. How do they bridge that gap? Well, the answer is this really clever piece of tech called automatic content recognition, or ACR. It's built right into most smart TVs these days, and its job is to identify exactly what's on the screen at any given moment, whether it's a movie, a show, or a specific commercial. ACR is the critical bridge that lets advertisers finally understand our viewing habits across all these different fragmented platforms. Of course, with all this incredibly valuable content flying around the building, you've got to protect it. That's done through something called Digital Rights Management, or DRM, and it's basically a 2-step process. First, the video files are encrypted. They're just scrambled into gibberish.
Then your device has to ping a license server and ask for the special key to unlock it. But it only gets that key after it proves you have the right to watch. And surprise, surprise, the world of digital security is just as fragmented as everything else. You've got Google's system, Widevine, you've got Apple's system, Fairplay, and you've got Microsoft's called PlayReady. Each of the big tech ecosystems has its own proprietary lock and key, so a service like Netflix has to support all of them, just so we can watch on any of our devices. It is just another layer of complexity, another layer of cost. Okay, we've made it. We've taken the express elevator all the way to the top floor. Welcome to the penthouse. This is where all the content lives, yes. But more importantly, this is where the real power and the real money in our digital skyscraper are concentrated. Now, to understand the power dynamics up here, you have to know about something called aggregation theory. It's a fancy name for a simple idea. It basically says that in a world with an infinite supply of stuff, infinite shows, infinite articles, power doesn't belong to the people who make the stuff anymore. No, the power shifts to the platforms that control the user relationship, the ones that help you discover all that content in the first place. And that theory, it perfectly explains the rise of what we call walled gardens. These are the gigantic, closed digital environments like Google, Meta, and Amazon. They own that customer interface, they control astronomical amounts of our data, and they do not like to share it. They've effectively become the gatekeepers to the entire digital world. And each of these giants holds a different key to your digital life, right? Google knows what you're curious about because of what you search. Meta knows your social circles and your interests. And Amazon, well, Amazon knows what you buy. For an advertiser, this is amazing because of the scale, but it comes with a huge catch. You have to play by their rules, and they give you very little insight into what's actually happening with your money. So what is the primary weapon these platforms use to keep us inside their walls? It's AI. And get this, on platforms like YouTube or Netflix, over 75%, 3/4 of what people watch doesn't come from them searching for it. It comes from an AI recommendation. Just think about that. It means the platform's algorithm has become more valuable than its entire library of content. The ability to predict what you want to see next, that is the ultimate source of power. So there you have it. That's our tour of the digital skyscraper. We've seen the foundation, the plumbing, the user floors, and the intense power struggle happening in the penthouse. So, what does the blueprint for the next skyscraper look like? Well, the path forward seems to rely on 3 key strategies. First, go all in on that edge intelligence we talked about to make the entire supply chain faster. Second, develop a kind of universal translator for data, something that can help companies break free from the control of those walled gardens. And third, keep building on that super fast XDN foundation to create the next wave of amazing, immersive experiences that we're all going to be demanding soon enough. All of this brings us to one final, and I think really critical question. In this massive digital skyscraper, filled with literally endless choices, the whole battle is over who gets to be your guide. Should it be you? Should it be the artists and creators? Or should it be the algorithm that owns the building? Who do you think should decide what you see next?